You know what's amazing about Joe Scarborough? He's always the last guy to say the obvious thing, so he has to say it the loudest. It becomes this big screed, like he's suddenly discovered something. You know, he has a show. He could have discussed wokeism any number of times. He could have called out the party's embrace of identity over meritocracy. We've been doing it for years. But he's like the guy that shows up to help you move apartments after the furniture has already been unpacked and carried up the stairs. He's just there to eat the pizza. We did it without him, and we'll continue to do it without him. He's been doing this forever, and it doesn't matter. It's actually just pure performative, Sandra.
Feels like
you know, there's a myth that the left and right positions on these issues are symmetrical. And I think the DSA is showing that they're not. That, for example, having a police force and not having a police force, that is not symmetrical. The second opinion actually exits the argument. Think about the border. Having a border, not having a border. That is not symmetrical. One operates in the logic of a nation state. The other one deserts it. The same thing with biology. We were in biology. They exited biology. Economics. We have a free market. They had to develop an entire party called the Socialist Party in order to fight the idea of free markets. Private property. We know what private property is. They act like it doesn't exist. So it's no longer a debate over goals. It's a debate over how a system survives. You know, imagine if Fox announces that they're going to hire Francesca Hong to be a panelist on The Five, perhaps to replace Jesse. Of course, there would be great outcry, but no one is going to die. That's how it is. That's not the same with governor. You know, Wisconsin governor, it used to be a job where it is valued as highly important to the Wisconsin citizens. Now, just like a lot of jobs, it became hugely valuable to the person getting it and the group that she represents. It somehow becomes like an award that you give to somebody. It's no longer, we should actually think about the people first. And when you consider American governors, Reagan, Clinton, Bush, Carter, they all became presidents. You look at her and you go, man, that is shrinkflation, a degradation of quality at the same cost. I wouldn't trust her to be my dog walker. And voters nuttier than her, and she's nuttier than a squirrel's diarrhea.
Oh, yes.
Brian.
On that note.
You looked at Sandra and said, Brian. I mean, what was that? She wouldn't respond, so you looked at me.
So, Sandra, do you think, is it a sign that since AOC and Bernie are withholding their endorsements of her, is there some demarcation we can look forward to in the Democrat Party, or is it just they're staying quiet and then if she wins, they'll fold in?
I think it's really special that Bernie Sanders and AOC can't warm up to Hong, but I think there's a wake-up call here. How in the world are Republicans letting Democrats, far left, radical, socialist Democrats own the affordability thing? Own that prices are up because of Donald Trump. You know, yesterday we were having this discussion and I was mad at myself that I couldn't just present these facts. Trump handed, after his first term, Biden gas prices at $2.39. He ran those prices up to a record $5 a gallon at the pump. Where were these people then? Okay, now they want those policies back and more. Trump then handed off $2.81 a gallon. Biden handed off $3.10. Trump brought it back down in his second term to $2.80 a gallon. It's back up near $4. Okay, so that's where Democrats are saying, they're crying, your gas prices are high. This is while we're in the middle of the war, ensuring that Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. So they're not endorsing her for many reasons, because her policies in many cases have gone so far left, and Bernie Sanders happens to like turkey at Thanksgiving. But for Republicans to not own the affordability problem that Americans are suffering right now is a problem. They need to acknowledge that happened, and that happened under the last presidency. But now we've got to own it. We've got to bring. You know what she's talking to those voters about right now in their front yards? She's talking about state guaranteed paid leave. She's talking about raising the minimum wage to $20 an hour. Do you know what that's going to do to small businesses? How many people that's going to put out of work? A 1-year moratorium on new AI data center construction. She wants to raise income taxes on couples making just over $400,000 a year. So these are the solutions she's offering at a very sensitive time for this affordability moment. But Republicans, beware. Don't let them keep owning this affordability message when the numbers clearly show these prices ran up under the last administration, and the onus is on Republicans to get them back down come midterm elections.
It's a great point. So do you think, Brian, that the Republicans will be able to harness that messaging in time for the generals of all of these?
Well, right now we're watching Big Brother. We're watching a fight going on within the family, the Democratic family, and then we're going to see what Tom Tiffany in Wisconsin is going to do to hold on to that, to try to flip the seat back to the first Republican governor since Scott Walker. But Scott Walker did something interesting. Hey, Republicans, you can vote in this primary. Do not push this woman because she could actually win. And if she wins, we're all doomed. And it's not a game anymore. Because remember, when she came out and tried to justify what she said, I had some hot takes that went awry. And then she blamed sportscasters. You see, I was a sportscaster. I want to be a sportscaster. I used some hot takes. But she goes, I shouldn't have let my feelings out. So she didn't say I've changed, which I wouldn't believe anyway. She said I shouldn't have said it. I shouldn't have tweeted it. But she still stands for abolishing the police. She still stands for abolishing prisons. She still stands for abolishing the U.S. Senate. And the criticism of Thanksgiving is, I'm sorry I said it out loud, and it seemed to have bored her son. Did you see how he yawned when his mom's talking? That's one thing. When your mom runs for governor, we've always said this, don't bring your son out if he's tired. Because I'm thrilled by the fact that he is so bored of this campaigning. But I think the guy that's on the docket right now, and Harold, I'll see if you agree with me, is Hassan Piker, because all those people left her side. You know, so Bernie Sanders left, AOC left, all the famous socialists. I'm not campaigning with them. The only person still standing there is Hassan Piker. So if she blows a double-digit lead in the end, when in today's primary results, which are coming in a few hours, it's going to be his fault. Harold, do you agree with everything I said?
It's good to be with you. I think a couple things. I hope that voters in Wisconsin, Democrats, do not support Ms. Hong to be the Democratic standard bearer and a nominee for governor. I'm a believer that not only is electability important, but you have to be able to govern. We live in an era and a time increasingly where both sides are electing people who excite their sides the most. And we forget that you're elected to office to try to not only reach across the aisle, but reach within your own party to try to solve things. One of the reasons that President Trump didn't get all the things he wanted over the last several days and few weeks in Washington was because a lot of Republicans didn't vote for him. The SAVE Act, the Clarity Act, things that the president really, really wanted. I don't see how those things help lower prices. I'll come back to Sanders' point in a minute. But he's having problems within his own party. So I think Democrats, Republicans alike, and I'll focus on Democrats. You gotta elect people whom not only can excite the 20, 30% of the party base, but who can actually help govern and lower prices, who can help develop better outcomes and solutions overseas, who can help get better outcomes in our schools. And you have to be able to work across the aisle to do that. The last time we worked across the aisle on education, I was in Congress. George W. Bush, Dana was in administration at the time working for him. He passed the No Child Left Behind Act, and you had Democrats, Republicans alike working on that. So you have to figure out ways in which to work together. Two, I think it's going to be hard, Sandra. I think you make some interesting points. I don't agree with many of them, but you make interesting points about how you can blame I hope Republicans actually take on the affordability issue, not because of the reasons that you've enumerated, but because I think, again, it's better if both sides are acknowledging it's a problem. Now, we can figure out where the source is. I'm glad Abe Lincoln didn't blame George Washington for the Civil War. The challenge, when you get elected president, you have a responsibility. President Trump made a lot of promises before he was elected, including the lower prices, including the end the war in Ukraine and not get us in never-ending wars. And things happen. Things unfold. I think the answer for Democrats around the war is we've got to reassert and reestablish or reconstitute and strengthen our relationships with NATO, because the only way we're going to get out of this, and it's another conversation with this Iranian thing, is we have to have friends and allies in which to do it. Finally, I'd do two things if I were Democrats on the prices, Andrew. I'd say take back every tariff unless it's a tariff protecting a U.S. industry. Don't tax the first $75,000 federal tax of anybody's income in this country. If you work 40 hours a week, you get reduced to free 40 or more. You 50 hours a week, you get free child care. And four, stop the name calling. Both sides. That's what I would do if I were running for office today. And that's if I were Democrats, what I'd be talking about, particularly in these federal races. And again, I end where I started. I don't want to see Ms. Hong be the nominee in Wisconsin because it's unclear to me that she can work across the aisle.